Welcome back to the 7 Financial Blind Spots. And Lou, the next one on the list is something that we are all experiencing. I feel like it just keeps getting worse and worse as inflation.
Most definitely.
How do we prepare to handle this in retirement?
You can never underestimate inflation, right? And it's something you have to plan for, again, once you approach retirement. Now, no one thought we would hit some of the inflation numbers we hit in the last few years, right? And I would hope that inflation would come to, some type of reasonable amount as we've seen in the past. But I think a lot of the numbers out there are here to stay in certain industries, and we're just going to have to get used to that and plan for that. Now, some of the ones in retirement, you're kind of feeling sorry for some of them because they didn't plan for that. They didn't expect these increases in healthcare costs or food. I mean, we're seeing a lot of those things out there. Another subject that relates to inflation is COLA, which is your cost of living adjustment with Social Security. So the great thing about it is we did get some good adjustments in the last few years to keep up with inflation, and we'll always see that relationship between those two. But the one thing that we didn't really expect was the increased cost in Medicare premiums. So we may have got a 6% increase in our Social Security benefit, but our Medicare premiums went up 16%. So kind of washing each other out, right?
Right.
So again, just not underestimating the subject of inflation. It's something that we're going to have to plan for, and keeping up with inflation is also a big thing. So whether our investments are different sources that we've accumulated throughout our work career, are they keeping up with inflation? Because if they're not, then we're starting to deplete our principal, and that's something that we want to avoid at all cost. It
feels that the prices we're seeing at the gas pump, the grocery store, in the medical world is the new norm. It doesn't feel like it's going to go back down, which means it's only going to go up. And that's an overwhelming feeling, especially if you're nearing those retirement years.
Definitely. People are talking about it. You're hearing it at the pump. You're hearing it at the restaurants. You're hearing it everywhere. And we're all experiencing it. It's just, it's something that we have to value. It's going to be there. We just hope that it does come down to a certain reality at some point again, so we can plan for that and not outlive our retirement.
So what does that mean in terms of taking risk?
Risk is a big one because obviously when you're in that accumulation phase of work and you're saving, you're running to retirement, you're taking more risk than most. It's okay to do that, right? Because you're still working, you're still accumulating wealth, you're still saving money. So maybe having a little bit more risk is okay because you can make up some downfalls in the market if it be. But as you approach retirement, I think most people are saying now, how do I mitigate some of the risk? How do I minimize that and say, all right, I've made it this far. I've won the race. I don't have to run anymore. Now I can maybe move down to a slow jog or walk into retirement phase. And so a lot of people, that we do meet with, they don't realize how much risk they're taking. And that's something that we take pride in, is minimizing that risk to preserve those assets for the long run.
Sure. So when it comes to inflation and approaching retirement, if someone hasn't really looked at their plan before all of this really took off, how important is it for them to come in, get a second look, tweak some things?
100%. Along with the Social Security software that we use, we also use some risk software, where we will take their holdings and their different accounts that they're allocated in, and we'll do a risk assessment and get an idea of how much risk they are taking. And you will find most people that approach in retirement, they're taking more risk than they should be, right? So the goal is to come up with different ideas to minimize that risk, to being more in line with what their goals are.
So important to stay ahead of that inflation. Folks, stay tuned for more of the 7 Financial Blind Spots with Lou.